The resort lobby fell into a suffocating silence as security guards surrounded an old man like wolves circling wounded prey. His hands trembled as he emptied his pockets onto the marble floor. "Fraud," someone whispered. "They caught him." But what none of them knew, not the sneering manager, not the crowd filming on their phones, not the guards ready to drag him out, was that this fraud owned every inch of the building they stood in, and the only person who would save him was a young black woman carrying a tray of coffee who wasn't supposed to get involved. Kenji Morita had learned to be invisible. For 40 years, he had mastered the art of disappearing into boardrooms, letting others speak while he listened, watching faces reveal secrets that words tried to hide. But standing in the lobby of the Grand View Resort and Spa, he realized there was a difference between choosing invisibility and having it forced upon you. His leather suitcase sat beside his feet, worn soft by decades of travel. His gray jacket hung loose on shoulders that had carried the weight of a $12 billion empire. His English came out careful and accented, each word a small bridge he had to build before crossing. He looked exactly like what he had intended, an ordinary Japanese tourist on vacation. He had not intended to feel like garbage. The Grand View rose around him like a monument to excess. Crystal chandeliers scattered light across floors so polished they reflected the mountains outside. Staff members glided past in crisp uniforms, their smiles calibrated to wealth, their attention distributed like currency, generous to those who looked like they deserved it, spare change for everyone else. Kenji had been standing in line for 25 minutes. The line had been 8 people long when he arrived. Now it was 4, but he remained in the same spot, watching as couple after couple was waved forward. A woman in designer sunglasses and a small dog in her purse. A man whose watch cost more than most cars. A family whose children wore clothes that had never seen a washing machine. Each time someone new arrived, the staff would catch their eye, gesture them forward, and Kenji would step aside. He told himself it was research. He told himself this was exactly why he had come, to see how his hotels treated people when they thought no one important was watching. But knowing something and feeling it were 2 different animals, and the one living in his chest right now had teeth. "Excuse me," he said to a passing bellhop, a young man with slicked hair and a name tag that read, Tyler. "I wait very long. I have reservation." Tyler's eyes moved across Kenji's face, down to his worn suitcase, back up. The calculation took less than a second. "Line's over there, sir." He pointed without looking and kept walking. "Sir." The word landed like a small stone thrown at his back. Kenji stayed where he was. His feet ached. 18 hours of travel, Tokyo to Los Angeles to Denver to here, had turned his bones to lead. 3 weeks ago, his nephew had smiled at him across a conference table and explained with surgical precision how he had restructured the board to remove Kenji from his own company. Legal, clean, devastating. So Kenji had done something he hadn't done in 30 years. He had disappeared. No security, no assistant, no entourage of people who saw him as a walking opportunity. Just an old man with a suitcase and a reservation under a name no one would recognize. He needed to know if kindness still existed when there was nothing to gain from it. So far, the answer was not encouraging. Next, the line moved. Kenji moved with it. 2 people ahead now. He could see the front desk where a woman with sharp cheekbones and sharper eyes was typing on a computer. Her name tag said, Victoria. She glanced up, saw him, and her gaze slid away like water off glass. Behind him, laughter. A group of guests, 3 men in golf shirts, faces red from sun and alcohol, had gathered near the lounge entrance. One of them was looking at Kenji. He said something to his friends. More laughter. Kenji did not turn around. He had learned long ago that acknowledging mockery only fed it. Next, one more person. A businessman in a suit that fit like a second skin stepped forward and Natalie's face transformed. Warmth, attention, the full performance. Kenji waited. Next. He stepped forward. Natalie looked at him, and the warmth drained from her face like someone had pulled a plug. Name? Flat. Bored. Marita? Kenji said carefully. Kenji Marita. I have reservation. Spell the last name. He did. She typed, frowning at her screen. The frown deepened. I don't see anything under that name. Please check again. I make reservation 3 weeks ago. Sir, if it's not in the system, it's not in the system. She was already looking past him. Maybe you have the wrong hotel. No, is correct hotel. The Grandview Resort. I am sure. Well, I'm looking at my screen and there's nothing here. Her voice had gone sharp, impatient, the voice of someone dealing with a problem that shouldn't exist. Do you have a confirmation number? Kenji reached for his jacket pocket. His phone. He had the email somewhere, but exhaustion had turned his mind to fog and his fingers fumbled through fabric, searching. Sir, there's a line behind you. Please, one moment. I find... Is there a problem here? A new voice. Male. Authoritative. Kenji looked up and saw a man in a manager's jacket striding toward the desk. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of confident stride that came from years of being obeyed. His name tag read, Harrison, General Manager. This gentleman claims he has a reservation, Natalie said, but there's nothing in the system. Harrison looked Kenji up and down. The worn jacket, the old suitcase, the gray hair that needed cutting. Something closed behind his eyes like a door swinging shut. Sir, I'm going to be direct with you. His voice carried across the lobby, designed to be heard. This is a luxury resort. Our rooms start at $800 a night. If you're looking for more economical accommodations, there are several motels about 15 miles down the mountain. The lobby went quiet. Guests turned to watch. Staff members paused mid-step. Kenji felt heat crawl up his neck. Not anger, shame. The particular shame of being dismissed in public, of being found insufficient by strangers who had decided your worth in the time it took to blink. I have reservation, he said, hating how small his voice sounded. I can pay. Please, if you just... Sir, I'm going to ask you to step aside. But Now! Kenji's hand finally closed around his phone. He pulled it out, fumbling to unlock the screen, to find the email, to prove... The phone slipped from his trembling fingers. It hit the marble floor with a crack that echoed through the silent lobby. The screen lit up, displaying his email inbox. Japanese characters filled the screen. His native language, his comfort, the words he thought in when he was scared. Harrison bent down and picked up the phone before Kenji could reach it. His eyes scanned the screen, and his expression shifted. Confusion first, then something darker. What is this? He held the phone up, showing the Japanese text to Natalie, to the gathering crowd. Why is everything in Japanese? Is my phone, Kenji said, reaching for it. Please, give back. Harrison pulled it away. You said your name was Marita. That's a Japanese name. But you're trying to book a room here under... He squinted at the screen. I can't even read this. What are you trying to pull? Nothing. I am Japanese. Is my language... Are you using a fake identity? Harrison's voice went loud, theatrical. Did you steal someone's reservation? No, I am Kenji Marita. Is my name my reservation? Security. Harrison snapped his fingers. Two men in black suits materialized from the edges of the lobby like shadows given form. We have a situation here. The guards moved toward Kenji, and suddenly he was surrounded. The lobby, which had seemed so vast a moment ago, became a cage. Sir, we're going to need you to empty your pockets. What? No, please, this is a mistake. Empty your pockets, now. Kenji looked around, searching for help, for anyone who might understand. But he saw only faces, Curious, amused, hostile. Someone had pulled out a phone and was filming. Another person whispered to their companion, "Probably a scammer. They're everywhere these days." "This is misunderstanding," Kenji said, his English fracturing under stress. "I am not criminal. I am... Sir, if you don't cooperate, we will have local law enforcement here in 10 minutes. Harrison stood with his arms crossed, a satisfied expression on his face. The expression of a man who had found a problem and was solving it, who was protecting his guests from an obvious threat. Kenji's hands shook as he reached into his pockets, his wallet, his passport, a few coins. He placed them on the cold marble floor, one by one, while strangers watched and judged. "Is this funny to everyone?" he whispered in Japanese, not meaning to speak aloud. "I built hospitals, I fund schools, and here I am, on my knees." He didn't finish the sentence. His throat had closed around the words. Maya Thompson was having the kind of day that made her question every decision that had led her here. 6 hours into a double shift, feet aching, a smile plastered on her face so long it had stopped feeling like her own. She carried a tray of lattes toward a group of businessmen who had snapped their fingers at her twice already, and she thought about her grandmother's voice. "Baby, you keep your head down and your dreams high. The world will try to make you small. Don't let it." She had dreams. Big ones. A degree in international relations. A career as a translator at the UN, maybe. Or the State Department. Somewhere her gift for languages, 5 and counting, could mean something more than reciting the dessert menu in French to impress tourists. But dreams cost money, and money meant doubles at the Grand View, smiling at people who looked through her like she was furniture, pretending she didn't hear the comments about diversity hires or the customers who asked to be served by someone else. She was walking past the front desk when she heard the commotion. A crowd had gathered near the entrance. Security guards, raised voices, someone on the ground. "Not my problem," she told herself. "Keep walking, don't get involved." But her feet slowed anyway, because the voice she heard, fragmented, desperate, accented, reminded her of something, someone. She moved closer, craning to see past the wall of shoulders. An old Japanese man was kneeling on the marble floor, his belongings scattered around him like debris from a shipwreck. His face was pale, his hands trembling, and he was speaking, not to the guards, not to the manager looming over him, but to himself, muttering in Japanese. Maya froze, because she understood what he was saying. "Yamamoto-san made the booking, confirmation number, the Mountain View room. Why won't they listen?" 3 summers in Osaka, a year of intensive study, a grandmother who insisted she learn because Japanese is the language of precision, and precision is respect. Maya understood every word. And she understood something else, too. This man wasn't a scammer. He was a terrified old man who couldn't make himself understood, who was being humiliated in front of a crowd, who was looking for a confirmation that existed somewhere in a system no one would bother to search. "Don't get involved," the smart part of her brain whispered. "You'll lose your job. You're nobody here." But her grandmother's voice was louder. "The world will try to make you small. Don't let it." Maya set down her tray of lattes, and she walked into the circle. "Excuse me." Her voice came out stronger than she expected, clear, cutting through the noise like a blade. Harrison turned, irritation flickering across his face. "Ma'am, this is a security matter. Please step back." "I can help." Maya kept her eyes on the old man, who had looked up at her voice. "I speak Japanese. I can translate." "That won't be necessary. Sir, with respect, you're about to call the police on a guest because you can't read his email." She heard the edge in her own voice and didn't care. "Let me look at his phone. Let me talk to him. If he's a fraud, I'll tell you myself." Harrison's jaw tightened. "You work in the cafe. This isn't your concern." It became my concern when you started treating a senior citizen like a criminal in front of 50 people. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Someone said, "She's right. Let her help." Another voice, "Yeah, what's the harm?" Harrison's eyes darted between Maya and the crowd. She could see him calculating the optics, the liability, the potential for this to go viral in all the wrong ways. "Fine," he said through clenched teeth. "You have 2 minutes." Maya knelt beside the old man. Up close, she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the quiet dignity holding itself together by threads. "Sumimasen," she said softly. "Nihongo de hanashite mo ii desu ka?" "Excuse me. May I speak with you in Japanese?" The old man's eyes widened. For a moment, he just stared at her as if she had spoken magic instead of words. Then his face crumpled with relief. "You speak Japanese?" He replied in his native tongue, his voice cracking. "Please help me. I have a reservation. The name is Yamamoto. My assistant made the booking under her name. I can show you the confirmation, but it's in Japanese and they won't—" "It's okay," Maya said gently. "I understand. Can you tell me what kind of room?" "The Mountain View Suite. The premium package. I specifically requested the east-facing room because the sunrise—" Maya stood and turned to Natalie, who was watching with undisguised contempt. "Search for a reservation under the name Yamamoto, Yamamoto. The Mountain View Suite, premium package, east-facing." Natalie hesitated, glancing at Harrison. "Do it," Maya said, not asking, telling. Natalie's fingers moved across the keyboard. Her expression shifted. Irritation to confusion to something that looked like the beginning of fear. There's a reservation." "What name?" "Yamamoto. Made 3 weeks ago." Natalie swallowed. "For the Imperial Mountain Suite." Maya felt her heart hammering, but she kept her voice steady. "And what's the nightly rate for that room?" A long pause. Natalie's face had gone pale. $4,200 per night. The lobby went silent. Not quiet. Silent. The kind of silence that follows an explosion before anyone understands what has happened. Harrison stepped forward, his voice uncertain for the first time. "That doesn't prove—" "Sir," Maya said to the old man in Japanese, "is there anything else about your reservation? Something only you would know?" The old man thought for a moment. Then a small smile crossed his face. "I requested fresh orchids, white, and a specific brand of green tea, Gyokuro from Uji. My assistant knows I can't sleep without it." Maya turned back to Natalie. "Check the special requests, white orchids, Gyokuro green tea from Uji." Natalie's fingers trembled as she typed. When she looked up, her face had the color of ash. It's all there." The silence stretched. Maya watched the transformation ripple through the crowd, confusion replacing suspicion, embarrassment replacing judgment. Harrison stood frozen, his mouth slightly open, the confident authority draining from his posture like water from a cracked vessel. The old man rose slowly to his feet. Maya bent to help him gather his belongings from the floor, his wallet, his passport, the coins that had scattered like tears. "I believe," Maya said quietly, "you owe this gentleman an apology." Harrison's face cycled through several colors. There was a misunderstanding. You called him a fraud." Maya's voice carried across the marble floor. "You surrounded him with security guards. You made him empty his pockets like a criminal while people filmed him, because he had an old suitcase, because his English wasn't perfect, because he didn't look like money to you." "Now wait just a minute." The old man held up his hand. The gesture was small, but something in it commanded attention. Harrison fell silent. When the old man spoke, his English was careful but clear. "My name," he said, "is Kenji Morita." A pause. He let the name hang in the air. "I am the founder and chairman of Morita International." Another pause. Longer this time. Maya watched as recognition began to dawn on faces throughout the lobby. First one person, then another. Then a wave of understanding that crashed through the crowd like a physical force. Marita International, Kenji continued, is the parent company of Grandview Hospitality Group, which owns this resort and 67 others across the world. Harrison made a sound like a man choking on his own tongue. I came here in disguise, Kenji said, because I wanted to see how my hotels treat guests when they think no one important is watching. He looked around the lobby, at the desk clerk who had dismissed him, at the bellhop who had pointed without looking, at the guests who had laughed, at the staff who had walked past like he was furniture. Now I know. The silence was absolute. Even the fountain in the center of the lobby seemed to have stopped its gentle gurgling. Kenji turned to Harrison. His voice went cold. You are terminated, effective immediately. Harrison's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came out. The desk clerk as well. Kenji nodded toward Natalie, whose tears were already streaming. And I want the names of every staff member who witnessed this and did nothing, every person who walked past while I was being humiliated. I will review their employment personally. He paused. You suggested I try a motel, because my jacket was worn, because my English is imperfect, because you decided in 30 seconds that I was not worth your time. His voice softened, but the softness was more terrible than any shout. How many others have you treated this way? How many people have walked through these doors and been judged not by their character but by their appearance? No answer. Harrison stared at his shoes. Kenji turned to Maya. What is your name? He asked in Japanese. Maya Thompson, sir. Maya. He said the name carefully, like tasting something precious. You stepped into that circle when you had no reason to. You risked your job. You defended a stranger when everyone else saw only what they expected to see. Maya felt her eyes stinging. Anyone would have done it. No. Kenji shook his head slowly. Not anyone. Not today. Only you. He switched to English, raising his voice so the entire lobby could hear. Miss Thompson, I am creating a new position. Director of Cultural Relations and Guest Experience. Your job will be to ensure that every guest at every Grandview property, regardless of their appearance, their accent, their background, is treated with dignity. Maya's breath caught. The salary is $120,000 per year. Someone in the crowd gasped. And I will personally fund your university education. Any program. Any school. You want to be a translator? You will be the best translator. I will make sure of it. Maya pressed her hand to her mouth. Her shoulders were shaking. Why? She whispered. I just spoke to you, that's all. Kenji reached out and took her hand. His grip was warm, steady. In my country, he said in Japanese, we have a saying, one kind word can warm 3 winter months. But you gave me more than a kind word. You gave me back something I thought I had lost. What? Courage. He smiled, a real smile, the first one in weeks. The courage to believe that goodness still exists, that not everyone calculates before they help, that some people still step into the fire simply because it is right. He released her hand and turned to address the lobby one final time. Starting today, every Grandview property will implement new standards. Cultural sensitivity training for all staff. Zero tolerance for discrimination based on appearance. Mystery evaluations conducted without warning. He paused. This is not a suggestion. This is policy. Anyone who cannot treat every human being with basic respect will find employment elsewhere. Silence. Then slowly someone started clapping. One person, then another. Then the whole lobby erupted in applause. Maya was crying openly now, and she didn't care who saw. Kenji's own eyes were wet. Come, he said to her in Japanese. Help me to my room. I am very tired and I have many calls to make. But first, I want to hear about you, about Tokyo, about your dreams. I want to know everything." Maya nodded, wiping her face. She walked around the desk, picked up Kenji's worn suitcase, ignoring the bellhops who suddenly rushed to help, and walked beside him to the elevator. As the doors closed, Kenji caught one last glimpse of the lobby. The fired manager standing frozen, the guests whispering, the staff looking at each other with dawning understanding. And he thought about his nephew's betrayal, the clean, surgical cruelty of it, and how 3 weeks of pain had led him here, to this moment, to this young woman who had reminded him why he had built everything in the first place. "Thank you," he said softly to Maya. She looked up at him, her eyes still shining with tears. "For what?" "For seeing me," Kenji said. "When I was invisible." The elevator rose, carrying them up toward the Imperial Suite and a future that had just been rewritten by a single act of courage. By a young woman who decided that kindness mattered more than caution, that dignity mattered more than job security, that doing the right thing mattered more than anything else. "Sumimasen," she had said to him. "May I speak with you?" And with those words, everything had changed. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is step into a circle you weren't invited to. Maya didn't know she was helping a billionaire. She saw someone being humiliated, and she decided that was enough reason to act. That's what real courage looks like. It doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't ask, "What's in it for me?" It just asks, "What's the right thing to do?" What would you have done if you saw someone being treated like Kenji was? Would you have stepped in, even if it meant risking your job? Or would you have walked past, telling yourself it wasn't your problem? Drop your answer in the comments. I really want to know. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us what really matters in life. Thank you for watching.